continued to say that information that is outside the Epstein files to me could be more damaging than that information that Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel have attempted to cover up inside the Epstein files. And that is being proved true once again today, because the House Oversight Committee is releasing new information, photos and videos from Jeffrey Epstein's island that has never been seen by the public before. And it is Donald Trump's absolute nightmare. We are going to get into this new release of images and video, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into these images released by Robert Garcia in the House Oversight Committee, I want to start with one of the main reasons but they are so damaging. And that is the close connection between not just Trump, but the rest of his cabinet in this administration and the last Epstein possible visits to the island that Adam Schiff questioned Kash Patel about right here.
Cabinet members that Ghislaine Maxwell was referring to that were part of this cast of characters associated with Mr. Epstein. Who are they?
The Deputy Attorney General took the aggressive step that no one else did and interviewed Ms. Maxwell for 2 days, and we released the entirety of that transcript.
Who are the cabinet members?
I do not have that transcript in front of me. You're picking it piecemeal. The American public can read the entirety of that.
One last question, because you clearly won't tell us the cabinet members associated with Mr. Epstein. Let me ask you one last question, and that is, right after she gives this testimony in front of an FBI agent, among others, she's transferred to a minimum security prison not suitable for a sex offender like herself. Who made that decision and why?
The Bureau of Prisons.
The Bureau of Decisions made it in
prisons.
The Bureau of Prisons decided on their own, without any consultation with Blanche or anyone else, that they were going to suddenly, after this interview, completely unrelated to this interview, completely unrelated to anything she said, move her to a prison not suitable for a sex offender. You want the American people to believe that?
I feel like we too quickly moved on from the fact that in an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell and Todd Blanche was really just looking for any positive spin that Ghislaine could offer to Donald Trump, saying that he was the greatest man in the world and so lovely and never did anything wrong and was never in Epstein's house, even though all of those things were untrue. What we so quickly moved on from the fact that Adam Schiff was pointing out. She admitted that multiple members of Donald Trump's current administration had close ties to Epstein. And we already know, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just admitted it on Fox, that he flew on Epstein's jet several times, that he went to his house, that he was in close proximity to him. There are too many Epstein connections for us to ignore within this administration. Within this current administration, there are so many Republicans connected to Epstein. It's why, when you ask the question, why would Donald Trump want to, outside of just himself, cover up the Epstein files? It's because he knows that when these names begin to leak out, these names of people who can be subpoenaed, who can't be protected by Pam Bondi, who can't be protected by Kash Patel or Donald Trump, then he's really screwed. And Robert Garcia is letting Donald Trump know that.
Every single day, we're not going to allow one of his crimes, his illegal actions, those of his administration, whether it's Pam Bondi, whether it's Stephen Miller. These are folks that have caused massive harm to the public, that are violating the Constitution, that are denying people's due process rights. And Donald Trump has to be held accountable for what he's done to this country. And this idea that we're going to just forget about it or pass it along as it's some sort of dark moment in history, we have to be very clear to the next generation.
Why I continue to talk about the importance of information outside the purview of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and of course, that Donald Trump is putting roadblocks in front of, is because that is information that Donald Trump cannot block. Pam Bondi cannot slow roll. The emails that have been released from the Epstein estate were done so because of subpoenas from the House Oversight Committee. That is information that was not previously, at least to our knowledge, in the actual Epstein files that the FBI has and that the DOJ has. That is why this new dump of information, once again, from the Epstein estate showing pictures and videos of Jeffrey Epstein's island shows why Donald Trump should be panicked, because they will continue, even as Republicans are in the majority in the House, to obtain new information that is incredibly damaging and brings new attention to Epstein. And that is exactly what is happening with this new release. Moments ago, House Oversight Dems posted breaking oversight Dems have received never-before-seen photos and videos of Jeffrey Epstein's private island that are a harrowing look behind Epstein's closed doors. See for yourself. We won't stop fighting until we end this cover-up and deliver justice for survivors. The images and videos of Epstein's island that have never been seen before are incredibly disturbing. They are certainly very weird. I'd like to know more about every single image that we are seeing right now. But more than just the weird faces on the wall, the sterile-looking environment, how just disturbing chills run up your spine looking at this stuff that these images are. It is also just a major blow for Donald Trump once again. I have to keep saying it. The Epstein estate's willingness to work with the Oversight Committee because they are being subpoenaed for this information is a major blow by any effort of Donald Trump, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel to cover up. Sure, again, they will try to slow roll the release of the Epstein files. They will say that any information under the purview of a court that is a part of an ongoing investigation, we won't release because of legal reasons. Because in this administration that's committing war crimes, they care so much about the law. Yeah, I don't really buy that whole bag of bullshit. But what this shows again, and it's just so important, is that we can continue to get evidence, no matter how hard Donald Trump tries to block it. And we already know that terrified Republicans seeing the result last night in Tennessee, a small single-digit victory for a Republican who Donald Trump had seen that seat won by 22 points. They are terrified of the huge shift that is coming in these midterms. We are looking at a blue tsunami. Democrats would have more than 250,260 seats in the House of Representatives if the result from last night continues to look like the results that will come across the country. If that is what we are seeing come November 2026, it is a 250,260 seat majority for Democrats in Congress. A wipeout of Republicans like we have almost never seen before is what we are looking at. And so they know they have to continue, as much as politically expedient to them, be a part of this process calling for more transparency around Epstein. And they are. Hopefully some of them going to. We know that Thomas Massie will. We know that Marjorie Taylor Greene did. Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, of course. But will more Republicans see this as they're out to maybe tap down some of the blue wave that's coming? There is nothing that Donald Trump can do to stand in the way, as much as he is desperately going to try. And as we get more information, it brings up more names. And those are more names that received subpoenas. We already saw Robert Garcia earlier this morning talking about how there will be a further investigation to the links between Epstein and JP Morgan Chase. How he is going to follow the money, how that will reveal more players who work to sanitize Epstein. And the more that we get those names, the closer we get to finding more connections to Donald Trump and Epstein, the ones that he so desperately wants to hide. And it's blowing up the Republican Party right now. Ari Melber broke down right here.
Against Trump over his probably biggest political vulnerability and oddest charge that he's faced in this whole first year of the term, where Donald Trump basically went out of his way to repeatedly minimize and defend a sex trafficker, refusing the transparency he once vowed and giving lenience to that trafficker's co-conspirator. That's just a capsule summary of what Republicans ultimately had to revolt against rather than defend when there was a vote. Top Republicans, though, have not stopped there. It would seem that, as we heard from some of our experts during that week, what started wasn't just going to end, because if the emperor had no clothes, or whatever phrase you want to use, Republicans found that they did have a voice, and most of them didn't face any great consequence or punishment in the real world for standing up to Trump independently once. And you might do it twice, indeed. On some issues, it's quite obvious that Republicans do better running against Trump, even if they worry about his personal vendettas in response. The issue now this week, of course, is the serious questions about how this Trump administration conducts war and whether as experts are questioning whether a war crime has occurred. So people want a lot more answers from Defense Secretary Hegseth. The question about whether he was directly involved overseeing, allowing, or directly ordering what would amount to, what appears to be, according to experts, a war crime committed in that Caribbean boat strike. Now, we have a top Democrat leading the probe who will be with us later tonight. And you've certainly seen some of the big news about this. Republicans also just know big picture that Trump is weakening. There's a new poll that finds him cratering to a second-term low. 47% was where he was at the beginning of the year. Now, crashing to 36 from Gallup. Trump also held one of these long cabinet meetings today, and he did touch on issues that have dogged Republicans and are certainly in play in the election I mentioned tonight. The high prices, the inflation, the affordability. Polling shows Americans have made up their minds about this, and by an overwhelming 2-to-1 margin, that's a margin you don't see on issues like guns or abortion or culture, but 2-to-1, people have come together, including a lot of Trump voters, to say, look, he is responsible for the rising prices. Here he was today.
And, you know, there's this fake narrative that the Democrats talk about, affordability. They just say the word. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. They just say it. Affordability. The word affordability is a con job by the Democrats. Affordability is a hoax that was started by Democrats.
Donald Trump's coalition has never been more fractured at a time in which he has never needed it to be more united. If there was ever a time that Donald Trump needed everyone to fall in line and do exactly what he needed and said, it would be right now. It would be right now as he tries to fend off any more Epstein investigations, any more Epstein evidence. And it's just not happening for Donald Trump. That is why we are going to continue to talk about that splintering coalition and really love every second of it. If you want to stick around for that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.